Coming up, a classic rock standard that started it all for one of the greatest American rock bands in history. And to think it wouldn't have happened if the road manager hadn't insisted on pulling the tour van over to get a candy bar. This young virtuoso pulled out his guitar while he was waiting, and he created a riff that would live on radio forever. But it also needed a legendary vocal to go along with it, and it'd have two different singers record it. Find out what version got released as the iconic guitarist and founder of this band tells us the amazing story coming up next on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenni Eyewear. Hey, music junkies. Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If music moves your soul, you're going to want to subscribe below. Be a part of our community, your community, where you'll get daily content celebrating the best of the rock era. You can also become a member of our exclusive club, the Dean's List, by clicking on our Patreon link below. You'll get a lot more content. Now, the history of Journey is a long and winding road of highs and lows that is as storied as any band in the annals of rock and roll. And it's the band's fourth album that seemed to be perfectly titled. And it was a harbinger, because in 1978, Journey blasted off to infinity and beyond with the release of Infinity. I mean, most of the time, no matter what the critics criticize or the writers write, the songs tell the story better than anyone. Two of the three singles from Infinity are not only classics of the rock canon, both Lights
When the lights go down in the city,
and Wheel in the Sky
ooh, the wheel in the sky keeps on turning.
are two of the 15 songs on Journey's original greatest hits. That album has sold 15 million copies in the US alone, and it's logged over 1,000 weeks on the Billboard charts. It's just incredible. They're the rocker and the ballad that set the tone for everything that Journey would do after, and they would really create the blueprint of what made Journey such a magical band in the late 70s and 80s. And this is the story of the rocker, Wheel in the Sky. We're going to cover Lights in the near future, but Wheel in the Sky was the first single, and along with the album, it was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, man, the studio magician famous for his work on classic albums by the Rolling Stones, The Who, Queen, including Bohemian Rhapsody, The Cars, Foreigner, Cheap Trick, among many others. Roy's production gave Journey the opportunity to try different textures and ideas, implementing his innovative practice of stacking vocal harmonies and working with guitarist Neal Schon on what Baker called violin guitars, creating a more sustained, thicker sound to the guitar parts. When Journey began to work on Infinity, they were a totally different band than the lineup that you saw in the mega hits of Escape and Frontiers. Neal Schon explained the lay of the land at that time to me in an interview that we did.
It probably was the third year of us touring, and we're getting ready to make a big change. We had done Journey, our first record, which was like, the Dead on Steroids in San Francisco. Yeah. We were known as that. And then we did Look Into the Future, our second record. And then we did our third record that was Next. And progressively on CBS at the time, we sold less and less records. We sold more and more tickets live, and we sold less and less records. And so a label at that point was going, we're going to drop you. We want you to change your direction. You need to give us something that we can get on AM radio so that we can sell some records. Otherwise, you're going to be dropped. And so at that point, Herbie Herbert had a tape of Steve Perry sitting there from a project that he was going to be signed with CBS called Alien Project.
Yeah.
Right. And so Herbie played it for myself and Greg. And Greg and I kind of both looked at each other and go, do you get this? And we go, yeah, he's got a great voice, but I don't quite get it, how it's going to fit with us, because we were so different. Herbie basically made that decision for us that, he's going to be your singer, whether you like it or not. and it was a good choice on his behalf. Time went on, and before we had got Steve Perry in the band, there was Robert Fleischman.
Yep.
And we were trying Robert out as a singer. And Robert was, I thought, a very good songwriter. And I thought he was a good singer too. Mm-hmm. And so we co-wrote Wheel in the Sky, Winds of March, with my father too. And Anytime. He did that with Greg.
The words for Wheel in the Sky were written by Robert Fleischman and Diane Valerie, wife of former Journey bassist Ross Valerie. The story goes that the genesis of the song came from a poem that Diane had written called Wheels in My Mind. Ross Valerie gave his wife's poem to Fleischman, and Robert riffed off the poem's theme and wrote the verses in the B section. That's what's been recounted before.
Don't think I'm ever gonna make it home again.
He also said that he wrote the final lyrics, or the rest of the lyrics for Wheel in the Sky, in less than an hour. Now, the mystical melody and all of the music was composed by Neal Schon. I'm about to give you the breakdown of this song, Wheel in the Sky, from Neal Schon's perspective, from his interview. But first, I want to quickly tell you about our new sponsor, Zenni. That's where these cool glasses came from. They support our mission of keeping the music alive. I love this brand because they have incredible selection. You just put in your prescription online and they ship them out to you. You can even customize them. I picked out this Buddy Holly pair. I had them put rock and roll on the side, a little music note. I also love these because they're really durable at extremely low price. I mean, seriously, a lot of these frames are less expensive than a vinyl record. There's a link below where you can get your own pair. Back to Wheel in the Sky with Neal.
We were all traveling in 2 station wagons at that time. We had like about 13 guys crammed in each car because that's all we could afford to get to the gig. And so there would be these lengthy road trips in between gigs. And Ainsley Dunbar was behind a wheel, and he'd have like his little radar thing stuck in his ear. And Greg would say, Ainsley, pull over to the side of the road. And Ainsley says, sorry, mate, we got to get there. And Greg looked at him, he says, you don't pull over to the side of the road, I'm going to piss down your throat. True story. But so we pull over. Greg goes, does his thing, and by this time, Pat Morrow, our road manager, he switches off with Ainsley, gives him a break, and he's driving. And Pat gets a little fatigued after we've been driving another 3 hours. He starts beating up. And Pat would always go like, I need a candy bar. I need a candy bar. I need a candy bar. So Pat would pull over. We'd pull over and fill up with gas, and he'd go get himself a candy bar. While he was getting himself a candy bar, I pulled out an acoustic guild that I had in the back of the station wagon. And I just started strumming the chorus to Wheel in the Sky. And then sort of made up the verses and just acoustically.
There's a little bit of a Layla thing.
Well, there's a little bit of a Fleetwood too. I had just heard on the radio, I was listening to some Fleetwood Mac record. I think it was Go Your Own Way. And I thought Lindsey Buckingham, I go, that's some cool guitar, like bluesy, but different. So that was kind of stuck in my head at the time. And so that was really the inspiration for the beginning of Wheel in the Sky. I was just hearing the song on the radio. And that's where that one came from. And I go, oh, Lindsey Buckingham, that's pretty cool, man. I like the guitar. And it was funny. Then after our record came out, I was about to meet him and he wanted to get together and write some. I guess he heard, the similarity of that, I kind of knew where he was like coming from. Kind of mixing like the rock with, some bluegrass vibe in it.
So Robert Fleischman was the lead singer for Journey for about 6 months in '77, and he even recorded an early version of Wheel in the Sky. Although Fleischman had tremendous range, Journey's manager, Herbie Herbert, believed in order for Journey to achieve great success, over-the-top success, they needed a lead vocalist that would give the band a strong identity to attract a mass audience. He wanted a vocalist that could deliver a versatile, more complete sound. Herbert, of course, found the missing ingredient of the already majestic music of Journey in Steve Perry.
The morning sun is rising, it's kissing the day.
A young, relatively unknown singer that was fixing coops at a California turkey farm before taking a shot at a career in rock and roll. And it was that demo of Perry singing with the band Alien Project that thoroughly impressed Herbert and compelled him to contact Perry. You heard it earlier. Wheel in the Sky was really the first track that gave the world a demonstration of Steve Perry's superstar potential with an auspicious, incredibly poised lead vocal performance. Taking a break from Wheel in the Sky for a second, one of the tracks off of Infinity that shows how completely electrifying Steve Perry really is, feeling that way. You have Greg Raleigh starting off, and it's a nice song. You know, you're kind of swaying your head to it.
You're feeling that way too. Or am I just?
And then all hell breaks loose, and your soul gets a Bruce Lee roundhouse to the face.
The summer's gone, she'll be back.
He's the best, in my opinion, the best ever. His voice cracks my skull every single time. At this point, it's just undeniable. That's how I feel. Back to Wheel in the Sky. Greg Raleigh, Journey's original lead vocalist, sang backing vocals along with Neal Schon on the original recording. And a classic rock standard that still blasts across the world today was born. The song was one of the highlights of later shows as Journey began to dominate the US in the early 80s. When Steve Perry left Journey in '96, it's been said that Fleischman wrote a bit with Journey, and there was some discussion about him rejoining the band to be a lead vocalist, but as I understand it, the idea fizzled pretty quickly. The only recorded song that Fleischman performed vocals on with Journey was an obscure track titled For You. That was included on Journey's box set Time 3, as well as Fleischman's solo record in '79 after leaving Journey. Fleischman most notably lended his high-octane vocals to the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Now, interestingly, Robert Fleischman vied for the lead vocalist role with Asia before stepping aside, acknowledging that the late John Wetton was the best candidate for that gig, which he was correct. It was Infinity that gave the world just a glimpse of a band that was about to sell out arenas for almost half a century now. Wheel in the Sky featuring Steve Perry in the front position and Neal Schon and his mystical guitar bringing that unforgettable melody began Journey's transition from a progressive rock sound to a mainstream song-driven emphasis with those earth-shaking big vocal choruses. Wheel in the Sky was actually Journey's first entry into the Billboard Hot 100. It reached number 57.
We ended up, writing some incredible music together. And some of the stuff all of the stuff is etched in stone for life.
Oh, yeah.
It survived the test of time and
In the
it is
pop
here
music
stronger than
canon.
ever,
Yep.
And so I'm very proud of, that huge legacy that we've done in music there.
Sing on me.
Wow. Steve Perry and Neal Schon, it just doesn't get any better than that. Truly. Leave us a comment on the vocal and guitar duo below. Give us your thoughts on Wheel in the Sky. You can get this shirt that I'm wearing and their albums by clicking on the Amazon links below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. Hit the bell so you know when our videos, including Journey's classic Lights, is coming out. That'll be coming out soon. Make sure to get your Zenny glasses below. Look us up on Patreon for more content. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.